Hi Dad. So you've been a funeral director for over 40 years. I know there are a few things that you can do with ashes. Can you explain some of them?
Yes, well, this is why we're here in this room to talk about that. Urns. The most traditional urns really are the wooden urns. In New Zealand, this used to happen a lot because people would try and match the casket that they were working with. Putting the ashes in a traditional urn meant that they could then keep them at home for a while, or then they could inter them in the ground or in the family grave. As time's gone on, people have got more to scattering of ashes, so we often end up with things like these scattering tubes, which are biodegradable, so it's a lot nicer. You can still keep them for a while, but then scatter them. People even do with the traditional urns, they keep them in the box sometimes and then scatter them and keep the box for something really special. We've moved a little bit more to these sort of American, Asian, Indian style urns, which are really popular now, and it's similar sort of price, but they're metal for people who want to keep them for a long time.
So what about keepsakes and cremation jewellery?
Good question. So these are keepsakes, and keepsakes are really a mini version of the bigger ashes, and we do them in little wooden ones as well. The idea behind that is twofold. Sometimes you might get, grandma came from England, you want to inter her ashes here, or send some back to England. So you send a small one, or the opposite, you might send the big ones back to England, but keep a little bit in New Zealand because she was here too. Cremation jewellery is the same. Cremation jewellery really is a huge range of different jewellery, all personalised, and a tiny bit of ashes go in. So some people don't like splitting the ashes up, but here's a chance to actually put a tiny bit in and keep that in a special place on some cremation jewellery.
So what about touchstones? How do they work?
Oh, they're really cool. Here's one here. So touchstones are, and there's lots of innovation around in New Zealand with different sorts of stones that people make from the ash. I just saw a friend the other day who makes rock, believe it or not, for fancy housing, and he put the ashes into the rock. So the rock actually is in the garden as part of them. The touchstone is similar, it's glass, they blow glass, you choose your size, your style, and the colour that goes through it, and then see the white through here is a little bit of ash that's been thrown through and dropped in there, and it's personal. People don't know what it is, so it's special to you, only you know. It's quite clever.
So what about sending them into space?
Sending them into space, that's really cool. So sending them into space, New Zealand actually has done this already with a small group, and it's quite a cool thing to do. So it's really putting the ashes into containers that when they go up into this little rocket, and then the rocket goes boom, and the ashes go out into the stratosphere, and they're there supposedly forever, which is really cool. And the other one we were talking about before was diamonds. Most ashes, and I'll talk about that in the next series, how we create the ash, but most ash doesn't have much carbon in at the end. So they can slow the process down a little and leave a bit more carbon in, because diamonds is compressed carbon. Then they compress those ashes right down to a tiny diamond. Really expensive process, but pretty cool if that's what you want.
So where are you allowed to scatter them?
So where are you allowed to scatter ashes? That's a big question, and I'll talk about that in the next series when I talk about the whole cremation process and what you can do with ashes at the end.